Thank you for joining us today for In Action, Lightspeed Audio in the Classroom. Today we're speaking to our wonderful partners from South Portland Schools in Maine. We have Andy Wallace, who is currently the Director of Technology for the district, and Kristen Ortiz, who is the second grade teacher at Dora L. Small School. Lightspeed appreciates your partnership, so welcome to you both. Let's start with you, Andy. So South Portland has partnered with Lightspeed for a while now. And please tell us about the technology that you are currently using and how you introduce the audio technology to your teaching staff.
Yes, so we've been using Lightspeed TopCat solutions in all of our instructional spaces at the elementary level, and recently have started to expand to the high school and middle schools. And so what we did was we paired the Lightspeed tech with our interactive projection boards for a solution that really allowed the audio to be distributed throughout the classroom evenly. And it's had a really nice impact for teaching in the regular setting. I'm sure we can talk about COVID in a little bit more later. But we found a few teachers that were interested in trying things in advance of their colleagues and take their feedback, and then we grow from there. So one of our great teachers, Kristen, was one of our early adapters, and then we try to expand based on success we see in the smaller scale.
Oh, that's great. Well, what kinds of processes do you have in place in general in South Portland to decide what technology you use and purchase?
Well, we try to think about what's going to have the greatest impact on students. So often, I've been lucky enough to be involved with a number of building projects. And unfortunately, lots of times we spend a lot of money on the video part of AV, and we sort of overlook the audio. When I saw Lightspeed audio technology in use at a conference, it really sort of changed my perspective. What I realized was that, if kids are not hearing what the teacher's saying, they can't process that information and they cannot learn new information. If they're always struggling to try to discern what is being said, then they're never going to progress. All the kids can see things generally evenly in a classroom, but when it comes to audio, where you're sitting, how you're facing, what your sort of physiological makeup is, has a huge impact. And as adults, I could say something and miss a few words and you could fill it all in. That's because you have a great vocabulary that you've built up your whole life. But when kids miss words, they're not going to be able to get to the next part of the lesson. And so they're going to be stuck there. So I realized after working with actually one of your engineers who used to be a speech language therapist, that wow, the learning gains when you can hear and understand things are just really tangible. And so that got me thinking about audio. And then we just put it out to our teachers and we let them take it from there.
That's great. Well, it's always such a pleasure to speak directly with teachers who use instructional audio in the classroom. And Kristen, it's a delight to learn more about you as an educator and how technology benefits you and your students. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your journey and what drives you to work in elementary education.
Why wouldn't you? I have had a love for kids my whole life. It sounds really cliche, but growing up and babysitting and being, still the young kid, but thinking I'm the older one to watch the real littles. And, it's such an awesome, it's a feeling. It's really just a feeling of just when they get it, when they don't get it, and you figure out how to help them get it, then it's, this like, oh, I did it. And then, the moment of them getting it and the light bulb going off. And it's all those reasons that you hear about, but they're so real. It's just really cool to be that person for a lot of young children.
I totally feel your energy, and kids are lucky to have you for a teacher. And you've been in education for a while. And when did you start using instructional audio, and what did you think about using it in the beginning compared to how you feel about using it now?
So I was thinking about how long we've had, the mics, and I think it's been about 3 years, at least 3 years. To be honest, that is the first time I've ever used any kind of instructional audio in my 20 years of teaching. And when it was presented, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try. I thought it was weird in the beginning. It was weird to hear my voice in the way that I did hear it. It was weird it just magnifies your voice, and it was different to use a mic, and I have a louder voice to begin with. So I also had to, learn how to tone it down a little bit. But now that voice allows me to have a lot of fun with them combined with this microphone. So it's only been about 3 years that I've been using it. And I mean, in the beginning, it was just an adjustment to, oh yeah, I have to put that on. And the kids are kind of looking at you or it, wondering, what is that? And they look up at the ceiling where, the sound is coming from. What? Because it was new for them too. And throughout the first year of using it, it just became part of our day. It was, I spoke to why teachers do what they do. And it's, to be that person for those kids. And this only helps you be that person for them. It is amazing the difference in their responses and their interaction with this compared to without. So today it's a no-brainer. It's the first thing I do. I walk in, turn the lights on, go get my mic and wear it.
And you plug it in. I gotcha. So now that some of your kids are back in class and they have to social distance, how have you been able to maintain that contact, that connection, and continue to build those relationships with instructional audio that is a little bit different than what it was before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very different. But I just found that, we're in a hybrid model and we have to make the best of this that we can. And we have a very short time now during the week to build those relationships with our students, 2 days versus 5 days. And you can't get anywhere in academics until you've built that relationship with your students. That is number one. And so with the mic, I just have fun with it. And there are times when I'm at the door and they'll be coming in and I'm like a game show host, good morning, and we just kind of, hello, Andrew, and I just hold it up closer and they just laugh, nobody is like, what? It just makes them laugh. And I think it really helps them to feel that connection from their teacher. Just this tool, it's in some crazy way helping to show them that I care and that I'm reachable and I'm there for them. There's other times when, we might not be having such a fluid day and I'll hold it up and say, attention, and it's like, I'll sound in this really silly, echoey voice, or then this really serious, very low voice, and they all just kind of like stop and they laugh a little bit, but they're ready, and so in those 2 days, I'm not having to say, guys, girls, second grade, I'm not having to be that echo all day long of what are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? And this just sort of replaces that in most cases, because you can have fun with it. You've grabbed them. They're laughing with you. Now they want to work with you.
Gotcha. And I know that Andy had purchased the Lightspeed Activate systems for some of your classrooms. And you've been one of the lucky teachers to have the opportunity to experience such for collaborative learning. So I realize that the use of these pods are kind of not in use, I guess, during COVID. But when you get back to the classroom where we're able to use collaborative learning opportunities, how did you use it before and how will you use it when we get back to the classroom where your kids can get together and hand mics around the room?
Yeah. So the pods are just really, really, They're awesome. And, I am a workshop centered based teacher. So in non-COVID days, if you walk in my classroom, you see designed stations, and my kids will go there throughout the day. And so at each station, I would put a pod right in the middle. And we would go over the expectations of those pods the same way we would go over expectations for our school year, or walking in the hallway, or our voices in the classroom. And so once we go over those expectations, the pod sits in the middle. I have an iPad that has the app on it. And I have on my mic, I have this earpiece. And so I turn this on and I put this in my ear, and I'm working with a small group. And while I'm working with that small group, if I notice that anybody seems to be a bit off task on the app, I just push 2 for pod 2, for example. And now what's coming in my ear is the conversation that they're having when they're writing about the new dog they're getting over the weekend. So they're off topic right now. And I usually just listen for a minute to make sure that it's just not using their time wisely. And that's when I can go into my mic and say, hey, writing station, I am so excited that you're getting a new dog, but I need you to get back to your writing. This is how much time. And they just look like, what? Where? How did she know? They're like shocked that she could hear us, and they giggle because they think, whoa, that's creepy. But it allows me to check in with groups when I can't be right there with them. I'm doing individualized guided reading instruction. They're doing a, grammar game, and they're doing a writing activity. I can't get to all of them. So there's also on their pod, there's also a way for them to let me know that they need help. And I generally have a rule of ask 3 before me. So once they've done that, they press their button, and on my iPad, it lights up. So I can see that pod 4 needs help. They've asked everybody, and then I can set my reading group up. All right, finish reading this and be thinking about why the character did that. And I can go over to pod 4, quickly assist them, and come back to do what I'm doing. So in a way, it's allowing me to engage and interact with every student, even though I'm specifically working with the 4 in front of me.
Oh, those are great stories. And Andy, are there any other stories that you can share from other teachers that are using audio in the classroom across your district, such as for hybrid learning?
Yeah, sure. So what's been really interesting in building off what Kristen said in your question about connecting with students is I like to go into classrooms and talk to students about how they feel about the technology. And they just, I often hear them say things like, I feel like she's right next to me, or I feel like the teacher is always with me. And they're just, if you're that kid in the back left of the room, you don't always feel like you're connected to the teacher. If you're a kid in the front of the room, you feel like maybe the teacher's booming through you all the time, or the audio is just going right through you. And so that's what I hear a lot of from kids is a sense, the word that they all use is calm. And it's just a prevailing sense of calm. And I hear that from teachers too, that, they find themselves speaking with a different level. They adjust their level, but they have a greater reach. And so almost every teacher I talk to talks about that sense of calm that they have when they're using the microphone. Also, obviously now we're trying to speak, through these masks, and that's absolutely taxing on everybody. Our throats and the way we try to communicate, the effort it's really been increased, the amount of effort you need to clearly articulate what you want to do. And so I have no doubt that teachers are using the microphones at a higher level to reach those kids. And so those are the sorts of stories I hear that, wow, I can't imagine how much worse it would be if we didn't have the ability to reach them more clearly, to distribute my voice more clearly across the room.
That's good to hear. Yes. Well, Kristen, what do your students think about you wearing the microphone in the classroom? Do they even realize you have it on?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they do. I did not realize that they realized until I would say about a month or 2 ago. I had a cohort with me and they said, we want to hear your voice. And I thought, this is my voice. What do you mean you want to hear my voice? And they said, no, like your voice without a mic. And that's when I realized they understand this and they understand, what it's doing, because I said, okay. And I shut it off. And then I just started talking to them. What do you guys want to talk about? And they were like, whoa. And they were awestruck that that I had a real voice outside of this mic. But what was really neat about it is the things that Andy was just saying about that connection is exactly the feedback they gave me. They actually told me to put my mic back on. And I said, what, you want my mic back on instead of my voice? And they said, yeah, we like it better. We hear you better. And, and they were speaking to the point of every one of them clearly feels like I'm with them when I'm talking through that mic, because it is amplifying throughout the classroom. So, collectively, it's bringing us together in a way that, for me, I never imagined. I saw it thinking I was just going to be louder, it was just going to help be louder. And it's so much more. And it was really cool to just see that they made a connection of wanting to hear my voice and then telling me to put my mic back on.
Yeah, well, we hear a lot of teachers sometimes say that they have a teacher voice, and we know that that just means that they speak very loudly, right? And if you were to chat with teacher, colleague, friends of yours to get them to use the mic system on a regular basis, and they might be hesitant at first, what might you say to them?
I guess the first thing would be to come watch my class, come watch my students. And I would just state some of the examples, the story I just shared about a whole cohort wanting to hear my voice and then saying, actually, we like it better when you have your mic on. We work so hard and our voices are on and our minds are constantly going that we're straining. And I would never realize until I had the chance to use this, how helpful it actually is for my overall job, for my voice, my straining, behavior management, classroom management. It just, you don't have to have those constant conversations around behavior. It really sounds silly because it sounds like it's this magical answer to everything. And it's not, but it's so incredibly valuable to helping us in all of the ways that we need in the classroom. It's us and them, and we're a family in this classroom. So we work together, but I need help sometimes. And this provides that for me. It allows me to just be silly at times, like I mentioned earlier about making funny noises or announcing a question in a weird way or greeting them. But it also allows me to just bring it down and talk with them. And no matter where I am, they're all really right there with me because they hear that. They can get off task. And as soon as I turn this back on, they're back on again. So I would just encourage any colleagues to just give it a chance. It's an adjustment wearing it at first, if you're not used to wearing something around your neck. But it's like a necklace, you don't even feel that it's on. I would encourage them to just watch their students and note their behavior and the engagement, because the level of engagement certainly increases with the use of the mic. Sure.
Great. Well, Andy, I always like to talk to the technology folks because they always are looking for great new things and moving forward and doing things for school districts across the country. So I just want to ask you, futuristically speaking, what are some of the thoughts on what may be permanent changes in how teachers and students will be using technology post the pandemic? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was hard to predict the future, but when I look at some of the things we're experimenting with audio and video technology, is we want all of our kids back as soon as we can get them back. But we also know that, the world has changed a little bit, and there might be times when kids aren't with us in the physical classroom. So we're looking for ways to use things like the pucks and the audio adapters to really loop in kids who may not be in the classroom and still make them feel that level of connectedness that we really want them all to achieve. And so that I can imagine the puck system where not only is the kid, one of the features is the kids could project their voice over the main speaker to distribute their voice to all their classmates, but why not to their classmates at home? That's one of the tragedies of when we try to blend this in-person and at home learning, is that I often worry about the people that aren't there are not feeling as connected or sort of left out because they're not, or we're limiting the conversation to just what the person who's presenting to the Zoom or the Google Meets is saying. We want to hear all the voices. We want the student voices, interacting with one another. Looking forward, this has been a terrible year, but some people talk about like a silver lining of COVID. One of them would be, I know Kristen would say it, is like the time with the kids in class together is so sacred now and so much more appreciated perhaps than ever it was before. And I hope and I expect that teachers are going to continue to leverage technology to, be more choosy about of how they spend their time together, knowing how precious it is. And I really think that we're going to start to find a model where the stuff that doesn't require us to work together, maybe the sharing of the information or the sort of the pre-work, the flipped classroom style model really has all the more meaning now than it ever has before. So when we get together, we're going to go really deep and we're going to do things together as a unit that we probably may have taken for granted for some time. So the types of teaching experiences are going to just be so richer when we all can be back together.
I want to say thanks so much to our educators from South Portland Schools in Maine. It's been a delight speaking with both of you today. And Lightspeed, who specializes in instructional audio in the classroom, appreciates all of your thoughts and comments. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Paula.